guess the story starts driving 1,000 miles to pick up a single water-cooled triode in a mid-World War II vintage Western Electric broadcast transmitter that I intend on restoring. And how? Are you saying I need a tan?
That's better.
Good morning. We're coming to you live from Gary's Radio Museum here, the most wonderful place in the entire county of Calaveras. And I'm Dennis, W7TFO, today/6, and we're here to regale the story of how a particular Western Electric broadcast transmitter came to be in my possession. It is a mid-World War II vintage model 405A1, which is the water-cooled version. It's a beautiful Doherty amplified broadcast transmitter that runs two of these marvelous 343As in it, a wonderful water-cooled triode. You can't just jot down a Radio Shack anymore and get these, so that's why we drove 1,000 miles to get this one. Shipping them is always a loss. They'll never survive the vibration. The story started in the mid-90s with an ad in the Radio World magazine. I'm sitting at my desk at KJZZ FM in Phoenix, and it says, Western Electric transmitter free, come and get it. So I immediately used the phone number to communicate with the owner, and he said, well, a couple of other people have been here and looked at it, but they said no thanks, it's too big. And I said, oh, that's my kind of thing. I'll see what arrangements I can make. So I called a friend of mine, Bobby Wood, a good fine southern gentleman with all his papers, and said, hey Bob, you want to run to North Carolina and pick up a transmitter, use my trailer and your truck? And he said, oh sure son, why not? When do you want to go? And I said, well, pretty soon. Okay. So we wind up being on the road in his Ford one-ton F-350. And we leave on a Saturday morning from Phoenix area. And we drive to Murphy, North Carolina. And we meet with a gentleman, and he shows us the decrepit building, which is slated to be demolished as a Walmart is going in. And he said, you guys can have anything in here you want because it's all going to go to the dump. And the transmitter's in there. Feel free to take anything, and please do take all of it. Well, we assay the situation, and we decide that the easiest way to get this 9,000-pound transmitter out of the building is to take a chainsaw and cut one wall apart. So that's what we did, and when it fell to the ground, it made the most perfect loading ramp. So we're in this building doing all this preparation to move this thing out and disassemble it and get it out in pieces. It's you got to love any transmitter that has a trademark that's 12 feet wide. So anyways, we noticed that this old building looked like somebody had been recently staying in there. A bunch of junk piled up to make a sort of a sleeping area and whatnot, and the bathroom was totally decrepit since the water was turned off. And well, didn't give it much mind at the time. So we get the transmitter disassembled and rolled out and on the trailer, and I noticed in a back room there was a Gates 5 kilowatt. And so I called my friend Mike DeRoe and I said, are you interested in this? He says, sure, can you get it? And I said, no problem. So we go into the back room, and as I got a crowbar under the single box that this transmitter is, started hearing sort of a rubbing sound kind of like this. You know, and we're like, what is that? He said, I don't know, there's something under there. I says, well, okay. So we had a half-inch conduit, so we pried up the thing a little bit and rolled a pipe under it so we could get it out. And as we're rolling it, the got really loud and aggravated, and I said, it stopped, and it the transmitter stopped moving, but the noise was really loud under there. And I said, I wonder what that is. And I said, well, we didn't see anything on the floor, so we might as well just do it. So I got behind it and gave it a great big shove, and it kept moving, at which point we noticed that the floor was covered with blood. And it turned out we had absolutely flattened two really, really hungry copperheads. And I'm really glad we did, because I'd much rather deal with them in a flattened condition than live. So we were able to not have to clean up that mess, so we just left it in the back room, slid the gates off of the ramp onto the trailer, at which point that poor car trailer had 12,000 pounds of radio gear on it. And at which point we decided it's time to leave. So we strapped everything down, got it all ship-shape, ready to go, and we're on the way home. And we're in a hotel room in Texas. And to give you an idea about the site where this was in Murphy, it's like a primordial jungle. It's like an American rainforest. You know, it was just amazing how it had overgrown, and kudzu vine and trees and you know, loblolly pines everywhere and that sort of thing. And I'm watching the television there. Well, before this happened back in Phoenix, there was a guy that murdered his family in Scottsdale. And he was wanted by the law and couldn't be found. Well, they finally tracked him down and they caught him. And it shows them leading this guy out in handcuffs past the building we just cut apart. And I say, hey, Bob, look at this. And he looks up and goes, holy shit, that's where we were. And I says, indeed. And that was the guy that was living in that building when we showed up. He was like very inconvenienced because now he's out in the twigs again. So anyway, they caught him. And we were just very thankful that this transmitter job, you know, didn't turn into something where he had the chainsaw and went after us with it, or whatever. But we made it home after 4 new tires and a considerable amount of diesel fuel. And so the beast is in storage, waiting to get restored and back on the air at 160. And there's the second final tube for it. So that's my story of my mid-40s Western Electric 405 Doherty transmitter.